Hello everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, Pickens County Planning and Zoning regular meeting. Present we have Joe Mason online, Joe Kraybacher, Suzanne, and myself. Do we have any commissioner comments before we begin?
I do. Nicole, because I know that we are basing the airport review on the master plan and the comprehensive plan, that old thing. But the applicant keeps introducing through his representatives the ASE vision statement.
Mm-hmm.
Would you please, well, I want their final recommendations. Would you send that to all of us so that I'll know that we're all using the same version?
Okay.
You're talking about the common ground recommendation?
Yes.
All right. Any other commissioner comments? Any comments from planning staff before we begin?
Yes. So the May 19th Planning and Zoning Commission was scheduled to hear the racetrack for their commercial GMQS competition. The noticing is not going to work out to have the meeting that day. And as a reminder, that was a site visit at 2 p.m. with the regular meetings starting at 4:30 p.m. We're proposing to reschedule that hearing to be June 16th, again with the 2 p.m. site visit and then 4:30 meeting at the county building. That's a typical day for you all to have a meeting, and that we don't have anything on the agenda yet for that day. Does that seem reasonable? And then maybe you get a break on May 19th?
Yeah.
We will have to meet to continue.
Yep. All right, that works.
Okay.
Great. Do we have any comments from any members of the public not pertaining to the agenda this evening? All right.
One comment.
Please, Tony.
Okay, for the record, my name is Toni Kronberg, and I apologize. I'm a little hard of hearing these days. So the people that are soft-spoken, if you can make sure you're speaking to your microphone and then it's pointed at your, thank you, I appreciate it.
All right. This evening on the agenda, we have a public hearing, the Phillips Mobile Home Park Location and Extent Review. Nicole.
Hi, yes, Nicole Rebeck-Stout. I'm the planner assigned to this case. I'm joined here by Kevin Warner, Pickens County Assets Manager. I am going to move through my presentation rather quickly, just to summarize what was in the staff memo. And I know Kevin will go into a lot more detail about what's being proposed on the site and history about the site. So I'm sure you'll have questions after my presentation, but I'm sure Kevin will cover them. Sound good? Let's dive in. So the subject property is this Phillips Mobile Home property located just up valley from Aspen Valley. I always forget the name of the subdivision, I'm sorry.
Aspen Valley Ranch.
Aspen Valley Ranch, thank you. And it is approximately 74.5 acres. It's zoned AR10. I want to clarify that this property has been approved by the BOCC to subdivide, to create parcels for public facilities. That hearing was in February, but that subdivision plat has not been recorded yet. So as of today, this is one single parcel. Just to orient you very briefly to the development on the subject property, you can see the State Highway 82. there's mobile home development in between the river and Highway 82. And then this is Lower River Road, where there's another cluster of existing mobile home units. And then this development you see here very lightly in the aerial, this is the existing ranch house and agriculture buildings. And then the majority of the property remains undeveloped, primarily as steep slopes and riparian areas. So the scope of the project you're going to see today, that Kevin's going to go into a lot of detail about, but he's going to describe improved domestic water and sanitary systems for the subject property, the removal and relocation of on-site existing housing to avoid hazard areas. We'll go over the floodplain and the debris flow areas on the property. And then also providing additional housing units that would include related infrastructure and earth moving work as incidental. That's the scope of the project. Very briefly, there's so much detail that you'll find in the application about that scope. Orienting you to the proposed site plan. Again, this is going to be very brief. Kevin has immense detail about the planning that's went into this project. And this orientation north is oriented to the left. So we're flipping a little bit here. So State Highway 82 is to the south here. This is that the mobile home development. This is commonly referred to in the application as the Riverside area. And then the existing mobile homes along Lower River Road on this hillside area in the orange. And then this pink area is the area for new residential development of different dwelling types. This purple line reflects the Rio Grande Trail. And then these blue arrows are representing existing debris flow channels. And then I didn't point this out, but this is part of the water service that Kevin will reveal in his proposal. So just a reminder, you guys have reviewed a lot of these recently, but the location and extent review, that's conducted by your commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we look to the code section 23030H9 to go over that. That's one-step review. The purpose is really to look at what's being proposed in this project and how it's conforming with the applicable master plans. In this case, we are looking at the Wood Creek Caucus Master Plan, and then the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. Those are the two relevant plans that we are evaluating conformance with. In the case of finding conformance, the applicant could proceed with building permits on the scope of work. And in the case of non-conformance, the commission should communicate its reasons in the resolution to the BOCC. And since this is a county-initiated project, it is exempt from the Chapter 12 areas and activities of state interest. A little bit of background, the subject property has been a mobile home park for many years. It was established prior to the current land use code, so it's considered a legal non-conforming use as it is today. And then we talked about, in addition to the mobile home units, there's other existing development that includes internal access roads, utility infrastructure, and that one single family residence referred to as the ranch house with the ag buildings. This is a lot of background, but the more recent history is that the county acquired this property in 2017 with two ordinances, one in 2017 and one in 2018, that approved the purchase of the property. There was some designation of the river area to open space in 2021, and then again, I mentioned just earlier this year, the BOCC approved that subdivision to create 4 parcels from the one 74-acre parcel. And that's been approved but not finalized. And this is an image showing how those parcels will be laid out when the plat is approved. And again, we've already, this is not part of this review, it's just for your reference. We received referral comments on this project from the entities listed listed here. The Healthy Rivers and Stream Board and the Open Space and Trails provided short comments, just clarifying that they're interested in a continued partnership as the project continues to be developed and more detail is refined. The Woody Creek Caucus and the Woody Creek District Planning Commission, both of those referral letters, you'll note, largely speak to how this project is not in conformance with their master plan. We'll get to a lot of that detail when we get to the analysis of their master plan. Colorado Geologic Survey, they reviewed this project because of the existing debris flow channels primarily on the property, and CGS confirms that there are hazards on the property and recommend more evaluation for the potential of those hazards and any implications that may be for the proposed development, and what mitigation measures might be warranted. There's some mitigation designed, and often Colorado Geologic Survey requests additional analysis to confirm that that mitigation is airtight. And then RAFTA provided a comment, and it did not make your packet because that came in after the packet was published. I'm just taking a screenshot so that we can enter it into the record, and I can read it into the record as well. RAFTA's reviewed the Phillips Mobile Home Park location and extent application and incorporated comments from the Corridor and Trails Department. The location and extent application notes several existing and possible future encroachments into the RAFTA Rio Grande Railroad corridor right-of-way, including a leach field, several mobile home units, and some accessory structures. Any infrastructure proposed within the right-of-way must comply with RAFTA's design guidelines as part of the access control plan and be approved by RAFTA before installation. The application also references ongoing discussions between RAFTA and Pickett County regarding potential deed exchanges affecting portions of the railroad corridor. Specific terms and requirements associated with any exchange, particularly those related to maintaining required corridor widths, have not been finalized. These matters will need to be resolved through continued coordination before final design approval or implementation to avoid potential conflicts with the current and future corridor needs of the proposal. And then the RAFTA team also provided an email that they wanted entered into the record as well, so I wanted to read that as well. Let's get the first niceties. The long-term protection of the railroad corridor, which will be spelled out in the settlement agreement, requires that Lower River Road be relocated to either the upper or lower Phillips parcel of the railroad property as needed for freight passenger transportation. With the current design, it appears that the only option possible is the lower parcel, which is steep and in the 100-year floodplain. It may also be possible to accommodate Lower River Road on the outer 40 edge of the railroad corridor, but it would not be able to weave in and out of the corridor. It could potentially cross over it at 90-degree angle, but only if the sight lines allowed for safe crossing. and then just inviting further collaboration in that last paragraph. So that's the extent of the referral comments. Now we're gonna move into the staff analysis, which is divided into 3 sections. One's the code analysis, then the Woody Creek plan analysis, and then the Down Valley comprehensive plan analysis. We went over Picken County's, as the applicant is not subject to regulations in Chapter 12. In Chapter 2, we're looking at clarifying the purpose of the location and extent review. So the represented development of increased dwelling units is not supported by the Woody Creek Master Plan, which we will get into when we get to that plan analysis. And staff did find that the application does comply with the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. I'm gonna skip some of these. So now we're in the Woody Creek Master Plan. So in that plan, there's a section on growth and housing topics. And the Woody Creek Plan is very clear that there's the Phillips property is an existing non-conforming mobile home park, and that there should be no expansion of additional density. There's also a statement in their plan about how urban growth boundaries promote compact and contiguous development patterns, and that the growth boundary is basically not effective if we add density outside the growth boundary. There's a statement about waste treatment plants and how existing developments in Woody Creek may be suitable for small package plants. But again, it shouldn't be an excuse to expand the development. So, so the staff finding here is that this scope of work is indeed expanding the dwelling units on the property and therefore is not in compliance with the Woody Creek plan. The table here is showing the existing number of dwelling units in each area and then represented number of dwelling units. So the total dwelling units, the application speaks to how that number sort of fluctuates over time. I suppose currently it might be at 41, but in the recent past it was a 54 unit count. So it's a little bit of a moving target, but certainly whether it's 41 or 54, the proposed plan with 78 units is increased dwellings and increased capacity for their package plants. So very simply, the resolution that you have in your packet is finding this project not in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan. I will go into the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. There's a lot more nuance in the Down Valley Master Plan is what staff found. So basically this analysis will show compliance. So the first section is, I thought it was a very helpful tool to have in a plan actually, because it talks about how when you're evaluating a proposal, a development proposal, it's not hardly ever black and white, right? There's always these trade-offs that need to be made. And so what this is stating is that during the planning process, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the commissioners should identify and prioritize conflicting land use goals and debate the possibility of compromising in the attainment of lesser priority goals to attain higher priority goals. And what the analysis basically was that the Board of County Commissioners purchased this property years ago with the intent of maintaining workforce housing. And so that goal was established as a priority over other goals. So it's just helpful to think about some of the analysis in this way. So the trade-offs being, are we maintaining safe and affordable housing to achieve sustainable infrastructure costs? So you get those economies of scale when more units are added to the sanitary system, for example. And then the other trade-off is, are we maintaining existing scenic byways in their current condition, or are we expanding development in a clustered area where there's already development in order to achieve community housing goals? So just some trade-offs to mull over on this one. The next topic to go over is in the land use goals and objectives. So the future development pattern goal is to maintain a development pattern which preserves the rural character and high quality environment, which makes the Down Valley area a desirable place to live and work. Here we're looking at the represented development at Phillips. There's already 40 or 50 units clustered together in a relatively dense area, and so by adding more, are we taking away from the scenic vistas of this zone along Highway 82 and Lower River Road, when the vast majority of the property is being conserved? The next topics are about providing safe, affordable housing in a variety of types and styles. Kevin's going to go over the different housing types, but there are other housing types besides mobile homes that are being proposed in the scope of work. So there's conformance with this statement from the comprehensive plan. And the next statement here is about agricultural lands and preservation of open space, where historically irrigated lands should be preserved for agriculture, and there are irrigated lands being conserved. Next is about wildlife, so utilizing mapping and resource data to steer future development from occurring in existing or potential wildlife habitat areas. So this, the Phillips Mobile Home Park is already what we consider a zone of influence. A zone of influence kind of, once development happens, wildlife is essentially disturbed. And so what Kevin's team has done was essentially locate additional development within that area that was already a zone of influence for wildlife, which, the other concept for this property, just based on the zoning, not based on county's intents or anything. But it's 78 acres. Could it be 7 tracts, 10-acre tracts? That would be much more impactful for wildlife compared to clustering the development, just as a comparable. The next topic is looking at environmentally sensitive areas and discouraging development from occurring in environmental sensitive areas and hazard areas. Kevin's going to go over the existing floodplain on the property and the debris flow areas that are existing on the property, and what this plan is doing is actually removing development from those hazard areas and focusing development where there are no hazard areas. So there's conformance with this plan statement. Next statement about mass transit, encouraging land use patterns along transit corridors. This property is currently served by the RAFTA Woody Creek route. And second, mass transit objective about promoting the use of alternative to automobile travel by providing multimodal transportation. The Rio Grande Trail traverses along Lower River Road and this property, providing multimodal access down valley toward Basalt and up valley toward Woody Creek. So conformance with that statement. And then this is not an objective, but a statement that was pulled out of the plan. There may be a demand for employee housing down valley to provide more of a family lifestyle than can be accommodated in the townhouses and apartments which exist in the Aspen area. So the represented density in what this plan is showing is lower than the multifamily housing types that you would typically see up in the Aspen area. So it's a reduced density that could achieve an alternative housing type and environment for our workforce. And new residential development in the rural residential district should comply with minimum lot size requirements of the existing zone districts, with the caveat for a PUD. This development obviously does not conform with AR10, and neither does the current development on the property. And then the statement here is that this is a county initiated project, and we are not evaluating compliance with the zone district. We're evaluating compliance with these plan statements. At face value, yes, this project is inconsistent with the statement from the plan, but so is the existing development on the property. And then there's Rural and Agricultural Wildlife Reserve District Development Guidelines. These are divided into categories. There's locational site planning guidelines, and I guess I didn't put my analysis in here. So staff found that there was conformance with the locational site planning guidelines due to clustering of the development, avoiding development on the irrigated lands, and then locating development along Lower River Road, which is a county road. The next section is about visual site planning guidelines. Staff found the represented development does not block views specifically identified in the Down Valley Master Plan. I'm happy to bring up the GIS layer, but essentially there's these view cones that are identified in the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan from a very specific point along Highway 82, looking in a very specific direction. And Phillips Mobile Home Park is not sort of a subject of one of those view cones. The next section is about minimizing interference with agriculture and wildlife. Some of these guidelines talk about creating a PUD. We're not evaluating a planned unit development today. Again, because this is a county project, and there is no requirement to comply with zoning. And then the county has the opportunity to ensure development minimizes impact on agriculture and wildlife. And the last section is about priority preservation lands. The represented development prioritized the protection of irrigated lands for crop or food production, as well as avoiding the floodplain and the different flow area. Whereas I think this statement was saying that you should prioritize the irrigated lands in order to preserve wildlife habitat areas. So in So the resolution in the packet has findings clarifying that the represented development is not in conformance with the Woody Creek Plan, but is in conformance with the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. And that is the resolution that staff recommends adoption today. I'm sure you have a bunch of questions, but I really prefer to hand it to Kevin because I'm sure he's going to cover a lot of topics that I skimmed over. Is that okay with the group?
Yeah.
What do you think, Zach?
That works great.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Hello, good afternoon, thanks for taking the time today. Again, I haven't met with the Planning and Zoning Commission before, so my name is Kevin Warner, and I started working for the county, I think it might be exactly 6 months ago today. So, so when Nicole has given credit to my team, most of the work has been done before I joined the team, so so I don't want to accept any real credit there. But I will, you know, as Nicole said, you know, she's outlined the you know, the master plan and where this project that's been developed over quite a few years now with the Board of County Commissioners and county staff, where that is in conformance and where that is not in conformance with both the Woody Creek Master Plan as well as the Down Valley Master Plan. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. My focus is really going to be on presenting the details of the project and really feel free, interrupt me along the way, whatever works best for you guys. Will work for me, and if I have to skip around, that's fine. And so what I'm gonna do, what I'm hoping to be able to present to you today, though, is really a very quick background. Nicole's already put a little bit of background in there, but I'm going to talk just a little bit different context of that, and then also talk about the site plan. I think one of the things I've noticed as I have talked about is the best and easiest way to explain this is to just start with the map and kind of walk through it and look at what the different aspects of it are, and then focus in a little bit more on road and utility infrastructure and the descriptions there of what those are. I'll talk a little bit about the traffic analysis that has been done, talk about the debris flow, as Nicole mentioned as well, then describe the new housing that's being proposed here and the relocation of some of the current existing units there over there on the riverside, or some people call it Riverview, side of the mobile home park. So that's kind of the walkthrough right there. I'll try to do my best to let you guys know when I'm kind of switching between those different topics. Unless you have any questions already, I'll get started. So first here, like I said, is the background, and so you know, again, there's a lot of history behind this mobile home park, but starting with how we got there, how we, the county, got there. The Phillips property was purchased in 2018, and then between 2019 and 2025, there's been a lot of Board of County Commissioner meetings and discussions between staff and the commissioners, consultants brought in, and those types of things to plan and try to think about what the site could look like to achieve the goals of the county commissioners, which really was to continue to provide some affordable housing in the valley. That's why this was purchased. There's naturally occurring affordable housing already there, and then after looking at this over many meetings, there was decisions were made to propose expanding upon that already existing existing housing that's there. And then, as Nicole mentioned, in February, we did go forth with the Board of County Commissioners and proposed a subdivision. It's a subdivision exemption, but we did subdivide the property into 4 parcels. And like was mentioned already, those 4 parcels, excuse me, that hasn't been recorded yet. That new plat hasn't been recorded, but really it was all about identifying the different uses of the site and then setting aside the different parcels for those uses. So existing mobile home park, and then you've got the new development as well as the infrastructure that supports both. And then you have a parcel of land that would, at this point is not planned for any development, that is to the east of Lower River Road, and then another one that is to the west of Lower River Road. And so that's what the subdivision exemption or the subdivision is about. And then finally today, we're here because this project has been developed to a stage that we believe is ready for a location and extent review. And here we go. So again, going to start with the site plan. And so what you see up here is, and I forgot to turn on my little pointer. Is this? No. There might be an option down here. Is this it? Yes. There we go. All right. So if you can see the little red dot on there, I'm going to start by looking at Riverview over here. So this is existing mobile homes and some cabins down here on the west side of the river. Part of this development is on Pitkin County owned land, and there's a portion of this that exists on land that is not owned by the county. The county's recently been working with the state land board to work out some agreements on that, but there's also other development that supports the existing structures over there, and we'll get into that a little bit more later as well. And then as far as the rest of the mobile home park, it is spread out across this area here, and right, mostly pretty close to Lower River Road. I should have mentioned, Riverview has gone back and forth. All of this has gone back and forth as far as the number of units. I believe there's currently 9 units, and there may be one of them that's vacant on the Riverview side. And there's currently quite a few less now on the this side than originally had been there on the hillside part of the property. But there's less than 30 at this point over there that are currently occupied. And so that's the mobile home park as it exists today. And so beyond, so what's being proposed beyond that is a cluster of new affordable stick-built homes here. That's a combination of this cluster that I just circled there, and then another small cluster here, another cluster over here, and then finally one cluster on the other side of Lower River Road. So between all of those, there's 40 new units of affordable housing that's proposed, and in a combination of fourplexes, duplexes, and a few single-family homes. So to support all of this, so currently, and we'll get into this in a little more detail, but currently this area is supported by 3 wells, and that are kind of towards the end of their lifespan, as well as 4 different septic systems that again are also towards the end of the lifespan, and for a couple of them are not entirely on Pickens County owned property either. And so to look towards developing a modern water and wastewater system, what we have is a water treatment facility that sits right here. It's a small facility that we'll get into in more detail as well, that treats the water. We would have 2 new wells, and then the big thing that is new is this water storage tank that sits up on the hill up here. And so that's a 280,000 gallon water storage tank, and we'll get into the why behind that a little bit as well. So that's the, and then obviously the water distribution system that serves all of that. And then getting down to the wastewater treatment, your wastewater treatment facility is down here closer to the river, but outside of the floodplain, as we'll talk about a little bit more. And then obviously the distribution system comes from all of the new housing and funnels into here. And again, we'll talk a little more about what that really entails after this. And then of course, there's also all of the roads that will support access to the new development. There will be some improvements to the roads that access the existing development, as well as the water and wastewater treatment facilities. So I'll stop there real quick. And like I said, I'll go through some more. I've got some visual representations of what this looks like from Highway 82 as well. But this is a lot to take in. Any questions about the site plan as we're sitting here today, or sitting here right now? No?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You said at this point, 2 parcels are not planned for development. What do you mean at this point?
Well, this doesn't, I'll say it this way, the subdivision that we did doesn't identify any specific use of any of the 4 parcels, but the parcel that is primarily to the west, to the east of Lower River Road, that doesn't have any development plan for it, doesn't have any development plan for it. But there's nothing in the plat that says it's set aside to be, say, open space or anything like that. It just is that it is undeveloped. And the same thing for the plans for the portion on the west side.
So would it be fair to say that those parcels then could be developed at some point in the future with additional housing?
I would say that that is not a staff decision by any means, but the plat and the subdivision work that we went through does not preclude that.
Okay, thanks.
No, I don't.
Great. So right now, this here is the visual from, it's not from today, but from, this is about what it looks like right now. And so as you're sitting on Highway 82 and looking towards the development from this unique vantage point anyway, you can see you can see a little bit of the ranch house and that development over here. You can see a few of the, a little bit of the mobile home park here, and you can see a RV that's sitting over here on this side right now. As we move to this is the proposed development as it's been depicted by our consultants. And so, again, they've worked really hard. The commissioners, as well as the consultants, have worked really hard to do everything they can to tuck the new development into areas that really would be less visually impactful than others. So you can see, I think the one thing that most people have the biggest concern over when they hear 280,000 gallon water storage tank is the water storage tank that sits right below where the pointer is right there on the hillside. And so it is partially buried. So I think that's something that's important to understand. I'll show some other drawings of that later. but it is less, to be honest with you, it's a little less visual than I would have anticipated for being such a large water storage tank. And as I've become more acquainted with this project, I've looked around the valley as I've been driving up and down, and there are definitely other locations where I'm like, oh, I never noticed that before. But now that I'm trying to see them, there are other water storage tanks along the way as well that don't necessarily pique your interest until you're trying to look for them. So again, there are units, you are going to see them, but people well before me have worked really hard to try to make this have the least visual impact as possible.
Do those water tanks also provide water for fire suppression?
So we will get into this, but the answer is yes. So of the 280,000 gallons of water that will be stored in the tank, 210,000 of that approximately are dedicated to fire flows. So the vast majority of the storage capacity is dedicated towards meeting the required fire flows. So switching topics from the overall site plan to the utility and road infrastructure, I'll start with the water. So currently, like I said, there's 3 wells and there's virtually no storage as far as that goes. So in the event of a fire or some other instance or even like say electrical outage or anything like that, there really isn't a lot of backup for that. So the new proposed system has 2 new wells. So we would drill 2 new wells. We would, over time, we would abandon the 3rd well. The 3rd well serves the riverside portion of the mobile home park, and we'll talk a little bit more about our plans for that area. So there'd be 2 new water wells. There would be a new water treatment facility. You can see a depiction of that water treatment facility in the picture just to the right of the screen there. It's about 900 square feet or so. It is planned to be a metal prefabricated building, so it's easy to clean, easy to take care of, and just utilitarian to take care of the needs that are there. There would be a water softener, chlorinator, and then a 50-gallon per minute pump that would pump water up to the 280,000 gallon water storage tank, and the line between there and the top is long enough that it basically serves for the chlorination like set time, able to avoid having to have another big tank to hold on to that water. So then in addition to that, there'd be all of the new piping. So basically all the new water conveyance that is necessary to provide to both the existing mobile home park as well as the new proposed affordable housing. That would be all new as well, up to basically to the hookups to the existing mobile homes. And that does include only those units east of the Roaring Fork River. And again, we'll talk towards the end of this about the units on Riverside that are west of the Roaring Fork River. Let's make sure. Oh, and the one other little point was that the building itself is only about 20 feet tall at the highest. It's not a large building. So then, talking a little bit more about the water storage tank. Again, the 210,000 gallons are primarily for fire flows. There's another 60, almost 70,000 gallons that are for the residential use. And let's see, it's about 50 foot in diameter. Will be concrete cast in place tank. It has about 20 feet of depth with a little bit of freeboard in there as well. And those fire flow requirements are that we have 1,750 gallons per minute for 2 hours. So that's what's really driving the large size of the tank there. This will though meet all of the, obviously it'll meet the residential needs. It'll meet a small amount of irrigation during the irrigable months for the residences, not for the fields that are there. And that fire flow storage was determined by Roaring Fork Fire Protection District and provided to the folks that are helping to create this. The next one here is to actually show the water storage tank. And so what I did here, interesting, it fixed one of my circles and didn't fix the other one. I was really impressed until right now that it made my circles look a whole lot better. So the one on the front side of the tank you can see shows the approximate depth of burial of the tank. That is dependent upon grade as they're constructing. We're hoping that it is buried a little bit deeper than that, but again, it'll depend. And you can see it's buried almost all the way to the top and the back. So they'll use as much of the hillside as possible to decrease the visual impact on the front side. So that's all that we're really trying to show there. One thing the geotech report did say is that the soils in this area are great for putting a large tank like this, which is lucky to have. So in addition to the water part of this, we do have the wastewater as well. So currently I mentioned that we have 4 different septic systems that are providing wastewater, and at least 2 of those are partially or entirely on other property outside of Pitkin County owned property. It was that way before the county purchased it, and just one of the learning opportunities as the county's been able to work through the process here of managing this property. So the wastewater here, as you can see, I did put in a little depiction of the building there. It's even smaller than the water treatment facility, about 625 square feet. And this one, so the whole system is already permitted by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. So to even create the system, you had to get a permit. And so it's already permitted, we're already paying for that permit, even though the system doesn't exist yet. In this proposal and in the system, it will discharge to the river, which is different than the existing septic systems where they filter through the soil. And then, of course, this also includes new wastewater conveyance from all the units on the east side of the Roaring Fork River down to the wastewater treatment facility. And so what you can see here in this design over here is that what we have here is a system that includes some settling tanks, some odor control, and what are called BioClear tanks. Those BioClear tanks basically contain a plastic media inside of them that allow for microorganisms to attach, and then the microorganisms do all the eating and chewing up of the nitrogen and the ammonia and everything else. This building is also planned to be prefabricated metal, and the geotech report also says that this one, the soils are excellent for structural support of all the plans there. Again, this is all outside of the floodplain, everything you're seeing here. The only thing that is in the floodplain is the conveyance from the wastewater treatment facility of the clean water back out to the river. And so to be able to get it to the river, you have to have some small portion of the total plan needs to be within the floodplain. And so that's really the only thing that's currently planned that is within the floodplain for the whole proposal. In addition to wastewater, we mentioned the roads. And so as you can see here, we've got a road plan. The current situation is that all of the roads that access the mobile home park are an improved gravel, basically. They're not native surface. They have some road base and gravel laid down. And then there's a few native surface access roads that are outside of the main travel corridors for the folks living at the mobile home park. And the proposal moving forward, there would be asphalt through the entirety of the mobile home park, And there would be asphalt to the new affordable housing. There would also be asphalt that would run to the water treatment facility and the wastewater treatment facility. There would also be 2 new access points off of Lower River Road. And those 2 access points are circled on this plan set here. And you can see that the first, or the one to the north, so to the left, the further left circle there, primarily is an access point. And you can't see them because this doesn't actually show the units, but there's a few units that are right there. Doesn't remove now. Right here in this area that's showing some grading happening in there. So there's a few units there of housing. And then this access point that is further to your right, you can see that accesses quite a few of the units there. The other roads would see some improvement, but the access is already existing. So for the units of housing that would go in the area where the current ranch house is to the west of Lower River Road, those access points are already existing, but they'd be slightly improved, and then the roads would be improved and would see asphalt as well. So that's I think one other thing just to note here is that you do see some grading, quite a bit of grading alongside the roads. There's some steep areas to this parcel, and so the only places though that you'll see anything that requires anything beyond normal 2-to-1 and some tieback slopes is in the area up by the water storage tank. And we're currently working with the contractor, our engineers, and others to determine the final solution for that. And we'll be working with the geotech company and everyone to make sure that we're doing the right thing to ensure that those areas are stable. So let's see, traffic. So I'll stop there real quick and see if there's any other questions kind of in the roads and the utility infrastructure that are being proposed. Okay, all right, moving on. Traffic. So we did have a traffic analysis completed for this. It was in the second portion, I can't remember, what do you call it? Supplemental, thank you. In the supplemental to the application, because we didn't get it until just right after the application was due. So what you can see here in these areas that are circled is that per the estimates that were done by the consultant that we used, the additional trips, daily trips, were averaged out to be approximately 263 average trips. And that amounts to about 19 trips in the morning hours during the peak, and about 20 trips in the afternoon hours during the peak. And that added to their estimates. We don't have actuals. We haven't done like a traffic study of like putting it at the access points, but they did an estimate of what the existing mobile home park usage would be from that side. And so if you add all that up, their estimations are about 523 trips, and then 28 in the morning and 35 in the afternoon during those peak hours. And approximately they looked at what normal traffic patterns would be. We all understand this from living here. 75-ish% of that is going up valley towards Aspen, and about 25% of that they assumed was going down valley towards Basalt. That results in their opinion, this is a lot of words, first one with a lot of words on there, but basically, given the low peak hour trip generation, they are saying that this would have little impact on overall traffic operations or create a need for any roadway or intersection mitigation. And they're looking at, you know, those volumes of about 16 vehicles total as far as an increase in the afternoon. So basically that equates to, you know, one vehicle trip every 3 minutes, and their assessment of that is that it's not expected to impact roadway capacity based on their look at this. So debris flow mitigation. So actually I should stop because that we're turning a page to something else. So any questions on traffic?
What are the current flows?
Yeah, so current flows, let me find that page here. Make sure that I've got this. Current flows, it looks like that didn't make it onto my notes, unfortunately. But I did talk with Andrew Knapp, our road engineer, and he mentioned that they did a, actually, you know what, I do. Oops. Okay, average daily traffic is about 440 trips per day. That was gathered from the point that you can see right there, which is about 2 miles north of Phillips Mobile Home Park, and that data was collected now almost 3 years ago, and this and Andrew's kind of industry standards say that a single roadway lane has a capacity of about 1,800 vehicles per hour, which is not normal for our area. But this basically the addition of these additional trips would keep that way below that. You would see a lot of congestion at 1,800 vehicles per hour on a road like this, but we don't anticipate it getting anywhere close to that. Mm-hmm. Okay, debris flow mitigation. Oops, I'll go back for a moment there. So debris flow mitigation. So what you're gonna see on these next 2 slides are gonna be depictions of the mitigation that is currently being planned for 2 debris flows. If you read through the full land use application packet, congratulations, it was a long one. So I'm guessing you didn't, but there are actually 3 debris flow paths on the property, but the one furthest to the south is not close to any development or any proposed development, have no impacts on the property other than to potentially, if it were to have an event, it would run through the property and could potentially reach Lower River Road, but there's no intended human development or anything there. So we're not doing anything with that southern flow. So what you'll see is 2. You'll see one on the north and one what we're calling the middle debris flow. So the way that what you're going to see, these are based off of an initial report that a bunch of geologists and hydrologists put together. And so those folks then, they put this report together, and then a group of engineers, they took the report and said, okay, how do we do something here to mitigate for this? And what you're gonna see is what they have put together that they believe will mitigate that potential mud flow. And then that then gets sent back to the hydrologists and the geologists, and they actually run like computer models of modeling what that would look like if that like large event did happen. And then, you know, depending upon what that modeling looks like, there's a little back and forth between the geologists and the engineers, and they may make some changes. They may be able to decrease it a little bit, they may need to increase it a little bit, but they'll work through all of that. and then they'll come up with basically a final design. That'll get shared with the state, and then, some additional back and forth with the state about those, the reports and the mitigation, and then we'll come up with the final plan. So what you're gonna see today is basically at phase 3. Well, we're at phase 3. What you're gonna see up there is phase 2. We're in the stage where the engineers and the hydrologists and geologists are going back and forth and trying to figure out what the right design actually looks like. And then like Nicole was mentioning earlier, we did get some comments from the Colorado Geological Survey. Basically, they said, we see this, we looked at our information, we want to see more, basically. And so that's part of the process. And so we're not all the way through the process yet, but we will get there. So, without further ado, the north debris flow there. So that's the furthest north there. And what you'll see on the north, this is actually the biggest catchment basin out of the 3 of them. It's about a half of a square mile in size, and it's steeper than a lot of the other ones. It drains via a pretty steep and confined channel, and there's above this, and there's kind of cliffs and some rock outcrops there. And what you see here is the engineer's plan for how to mitigate that. So they're really, what they're doing is, the recommendation was to remove the culvert. There's existing right now, there's a culvert in there, and their recommendation was to actually put in like a low water crossing, basically, because otherwise the culvert gets plugged up, and then it actually causes more issues because it gets plugged up and then things go up and around it. And so that's actually a common practice in areas where you have this, when you can do that, and when it would be challenging to size the culvert appropriately to be able to meet those high flows. So again, this is based off of that initial report, and basically just followed their recommendations to widen it a little bit, and also to create some walls to contain it and straighten it out a little bit as well. And then the middle debris flow is a little bit smaller. It's only 1/10 of a square mile in size, approximately. And although it is relatively small, it is still capable of producing mud flow events. And sorry, this one's a little harder to make big, unless I oriented it the other way, and then I would be confused. I don't know about you. But you can see that it starts, the mitigation starts all the way up there near the water storage tank. And this one, really, the recommendation was to channel the flows. And so you can see that's pretty much what they've done there in the projected design there. So and then basically just keep that from expanding out into the areas that would be developed. Yeah, it looks a little bit like that. It's true. Obviously, this will all be
Put a half
revegetated.
pipe in that.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out. Okay, so that was debris flow. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions about debris flow.
I have a question. So you said the north one was a half a square mile?
The catchment basin is, yes.
And what else is associated with dirt moving to have a catchment basis that's a half square mile?
So one of the things that they mentioned is that because this is super rocky and steep, you're actually less likely to have what they would call a debris flow, and more likely to have mud flow. And so it'll catch that water. It will, the way I understood it, not a geologist or a hydrologist, but it would catch that water. It would catch some of the sediment and the soils that are right on top, but it's pretty rocky, so it's not going to catch as much, and so it'll run kind of like a mud flow rather than bringing huge chunks of rocks and all that kind of stuff down with it.
So
Are we?
on the half pipe.
So that
diagram
was the
there,
north debris flow that was
Yeah.
half mile, yeah,
So
or half square.
are all those topo lines, that's all gonna be disturbed, is that right?
Correct, yes, so in both instances, those would see disturbance. This one in the middle debris flow would be pretty constrained as far as a width, but it would be a lot longer, and kind of the opposite situation for the northern debris flow there. The biggest challenge with the north debris flow, and this has been talked about for quite a few years, is that this is right in the middle of the existing mobile home park, and we're working with the engineers to decrease the impacts to existing mobile home residents, but there is likely that there will be a need to relocate and provide an alternative location for some of those residents.
I had a question on your traffic. You said during PM hours, it was 35 an hour, right? So that'd be a little less than a car every 2 minutes, right?
Something like, yeah, yep.
And then, in the morning, it's 28 per hour. And increase, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the 28 an hour, actually, the 28 an hour is
three
total.
minutes, a car every 3 minutes, or every 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
The 28 is the total that they're assuming, so, and the 35 is the total, it's not the additional from the 40 dwelling units that were proposed. So, yes, you're right.
Oh, part of that is existing?
Yeah, so if you look at the first row there,
Right.
that's the assumed additional traffic volume that we would see. So
Okay.
you'd see 19 in the morning and 20 in the afternoon of additional total, some of them in, some of them out. And then when you add that to, again, they're assumed, because we weren't taking traffic counts of what was going in and out now. That's where you get the lowest, the big numbers, or the bigger numbers at the bottom, where you got the 523 total, the 28, and the 35.
And then the next row, it says, what's it say, ITE number 240 mobile home park, 33 dwelling units, is that what?
Yeah, so the ITE, I don't know what that acronym actually stands for. It's like International Traffic, something. But basically they use two different measures for this.
Right.
And let me just see. So for the upper part where it says single family attached housing, they
Right.
used ITE 215, and that is basically creates the.
That's like a standard or
It's
something?
like a standard that says if you
Here's-
have 40
here's-
dwelling units or this many bedrooms or whatever,
Right.
you would assume the rate there is created from that. So
Uh-huh.
6.57 is the rate, and then they do a bunch of calculations and they come up with these things. So you
Uh-huh.
can see that the rate for the mobile home park based off of ITE 240 is a little bit higher. And that's why you see slightly higher numbers there, or similar numbers generated from a smaller number of units.
Okay, and then the 253 that's in the average daily trips column at the bottom, is that the number of additional trips per day?
The 523,
523, I'm sorry.
that is the total that they're assuming from both the new and the existing.
And is this only is this on Lower River Road, this impact?
Correct.
So, because there's the Riverside units that use 82 that don't impact
Correct.
as their access. So does that include this on this, or is it two separate? Is this just for River Road? It does not include the units that are using 82 as their access?
This includes the assumption that through options that have not entirely been identified yet and will be worked through, that we will be able to accommodate I think it's 9 right now, it might be 8, but units that are actually occupied on the riverside, of offering them opportunities to move over to the hillside.
Okay.
And that is built into the total of the 73. So you would lose a few
Right.
of those same daily trips on Highway 82, and you would gain a few of those trips through this on Lower River Road. Okay.
Maybe maybe you just answered this, but a few minutes ago, you mentioned relocation of people from here to somewhere else. Where would they go?
So if
Would
it's,
that be a permanent relocation?
it would be, and if it's okay, that is one of the last topics on the
Okay,
list, and I will
of
get
course.
to that though.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to the additional housing part of this. So this is the 40 units, dwelling units that we've been talking about so far. And so out of the total proposed here, we're looking at 2 fourplexes, 12 duplexes, and 6 single-family units. So for a total of 40 dwelling units and 108 bedrooms, we're looking to have this be an all-electric development, and really looking towards as much sustainability as is possible and affordable for the project. And as you see here, I think that when you look at this, the thing that I continue to think about when I think about this in the relative to the master plans, and especially the Down Valley master plan, is that, you know, that preference for clustering and leaving other areas undeveloped. So there's like was mentioned, there's 75 acres here. Some of it's steep and, you know, not really something that could be easily developed, but there's plenty of area in here, across here, where this could be spread out in a very different way. And the commissioners and staff, before my time really, have worked really hard to try to, one, make them as visually, you know, least impactful as possible, and two, to really cluster them to leave a lot of the other lands available for, you know, preservation and for other uses going into the future.
One question, just so to clarify, this doesn't include those, what you said, the other 2 areas? The other 2 parcels that are not currently designed for development but are available for development?
So the 40 dwelling units, the 108 bedrooms and everything, is all encompassed within parcel, what we call parcel 2. So parcel 1, existing mobile home park. Parcel 2 was is the new development and the infrastructure that supports both parcel 1 and parcel 2. And then parcel 3, as you were to look at it, does not have any development proposed on it, and neither does parcel 4.
Currently proposed.
Correct.
Infrastructure.
So,
Okay, so anyway, the whole thing is 75 acres. The portion that's having the development, aside from the other 2 parcels that are at this point not planned for development, what's the acreage of, if you take out those other 2, any idea what the acreage is?
I don't have that right with me.
Okay.
Was that on your slide that you had, that you showed the
You didn't have
exemption?
the acres.
The
but
acres not on there?
I can get that for you.
Okay.
From the subdivision.
Thank you. Sorry.
I mean, I hate to, you know, disturb the flow, but can you bring that back up, the subdivision plat?
Oh, I would have to share my screen unless you.
That's okay, we'll get it later.
We can come back to that.
So,
Okay.
parcel 2, which is what all this development
Correct.
is slated for, is 22 acres, rounding up.
Okay,
You're
so,
asking
all
about
right,
the
so
undeveloped.
22 acres, you got 40 units on 22 acres. And a 10 acres zone district, okay, got it.
Correct. And then the existing mobile home park,
Is that parcel 1?
parcel 1, yeah.
6 acres.
So yeah, parcel 1 is 6 acres.
Okay.
Basically, the proposal as it stands today is 73 units on 28 acres out of the 75-ish.
73 units on 20, you said it's
28.
22 plus 6, right, between 2 parcels,
Right, 28 acres,
28 total.
approximately. So we'll dive a little deeper in here, and we'll look at the actual plan. So there's I'll move through this as quickly as you guys would like me to. You let me know if you'd like to slow down because there's quite a few different models as you can see on this. And I have where we're at right now is at 50% design for all of these models. So what you'll see here is, don't pay attention to the colors and the materials so much, but the shape and the form and the size and the massing is what's important to understand right now. And so I'll move through these, but there's 8 of them. So unless you want to spend a lot of time with them, with each one of them, I wasn't planning to. So you just stop me if you see something you want to know more about. So the first one we're calling Model A, Building A. These are fourplexes. There's approximately 30,660 square feet of living space and 528 square feet of garage. And that's in total across all of the 4 units. So that's not 3,600 per unit. That's the entirety of the fourplex. And the building height, depending on which way you're looking at it, is somewhere between 25 and 26 feet tall from grade level. So you can see some of this. They are the designers are trying to tuck these things in as much as they can, and so you see that they're using grade there to try to decrease the massing and the scale a little bit. So Model B is our duplexes. So you see that most of these are actually duplexes, as we noted before, and they're just of different sizes and such. So this one has, these duplexes have 2,838 square feet. Again, that's the entirety of the duplex, and 544 square feet of garage. This one has a little more variation in height. So on one side of it, it's about 18 feet from ground level to roof, and on the other side, it's about 26 feet from ground level to roof. Model C, also duplexes, similar in the amount of square footage for living space, but these have 2-car garages instead of 1-car garages, so that's why you see 1,000 square feet of garage space instead of the 500 and something that we saw in the last one. You've got 20-foot height there from one side and about 33 foot of building height on the other.
County height limit. 25 feet. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
It's 20.
Wondering about that 33.
Well, you can go to 33 at the peak if the midpoint
Not
of the
more than
roof is at 28.
Okay. Model D here, also duplex, a little bit more square footage of living space, and back to single car garages here with 648 square feet of garage space in this one. So, and again, this one's 18 feet on one side for building height and 22 on the other. Model E, again, more duplexes, just a little different configuration. Smaller living square footage than we saw in the last one with about 1,800 square feet, but again, 2-car garages here, so you got 1,400 square feet of garage space. From one side of the building, you got about 17 feet of building height, and the other, you got about 23. Model F, this is where we start to get into single-family homes. So this one's got about just under 1,500 square feet of living space and 300 square feet of garage, with 25 to 26 foot building height, depending on the side. Model G, another single-family home, again, about 1,500 square feet of living space, a little bit larger garage space, and somewhere in the range of 22 to 28 foot building height. Model H, another single-family home, but these are a little bit smaller, so but it has a 2-car garage, so 883 square feet of living space and 708 square feet of garage, 16 feet on the left of the picture there, and 28 foot building height on the right of the depiction. And I think that's it. So any questions on the new affordable housing that is being proposed here. Okay, thank you. Housing resiliency. So Suzanne, this is your question that you were asking before. You know, a big part of what the commissioners have been concerned about over time, as we've talked about this, is ensuring that no one was that everyone on the Riverview or Riverside, whichever way you want to talk about it, were given an opportunity for alternative housing. What you see here on the left is just a little bit of the Riverside portion of the mobile home park, and you can see what's really obvious in this is how close it really is to the Roaring Fork River. And so at Riverside, there's 9 units, I believe, where one of those is vacant right now. And so when you look at that, this is on the west side of the Roaring Fork River. Portions of 5 of those homes are in the floodplain. Much of the water, the septic, and the roadway infrastructure is also in the floodplain. Some of the homes and the septic system are located off of Phillips Mobile Home property as well. So we've got multiple challenges with this side of the mobile home park. And there's a couple other, like the well is pretty shallow, so it's in the kind of water influence zone there, and so it's probably being influenced, as well as the septic, by flows in the Roaring Fork River. So there's a lot of different good reasons why, since early in the process here, since the county purchased this, that both the planners who've been working on this and the board have been discussing those opportunities to provide an alternative housing location for the residents that are living at the Riverside portion of the mobile home park. You know, I will say, I know there's some folks from that side of the park today that are here today. It is a pretty nice place to live, I do believe, from what I've heard from folks, because it is right there on the river and such. And the board has really focused in on the fact that they recognize that, and they want to do everything they can to provide the best, safest location they can for residents, and therefore looking towards providing other opportunities. So those opportunities have not been defined yet as to what that might look like, but one thing that has been set aside as kind of an unplanned area is circled there in red. This is just a really zoomed in part of the site plan, and we've got the housing resiliency area is what we're calling that there. That area right there, it could look like, say, a couple of fourplexes. You could fit 2 of the existing fourplex designs in there. It could be something different than that. It could support some, say, modular, a different type of modular construction come in there. It could support a few, mobile homes brought in. Most of the mobile homes in the park are not easily moved at this point in time, and they've just been there for a long time, and it'd be difficult. But so right now, it's still yet to be determined exactly what that will look like and what the county commissioners are going to approve as far as those options. And so we're just holding this area in reserve for whatever that may be. And if it's needed, then we would utilize that area to provide those options for folks.
And what is right there now?
Right now, what is there is mostly a kind of semi-formal but kind of informal storage area. So there's RVs that are parked in that area. There's a boat, there's UTVs and things like that. And the residents there do pay a fee for storage utilizing that area. it's pretty informal as far as like parking and those kinds of things. It's not like they have a slot, but right now it's being used for storage primarily.
And how large is that area?
I don't have that right in front of me right now. So that's what I have prepared to be able to walk through what the proposal is today and what this would look like under the again, it's 73 units, 40 of 40 of new, and there's approximately 33 other units. And I know that in the application packet, it also showed, I believe it indicated 78 in there. The number does actually fluctuate, and I know that people are like, really? Like, you can't land on a number, but as people either vacate a unit and in some of these instances they're not filled, the number does fluctuate a little bit. And so the goal is here to end up with about 73 units in the end. So in conclusion, really the purpose of this project is to continue to provide affordable housing opportunities for residents of Pitkin County and the Roaring Fork Valley, and you know, some of that being in a mobile home park, and the use and management of that could evolve over time as far as what that looks like. But then in addition, it is looking towards 40 units of new stick-built affordable housing that would be developed through partnerships with others and the county working together to build and construct those and provide them for folks in the valley.
In the other two, I know that Joe asked you about this and you went through it, but I didn't write it down. Parcel 1 is 6 acres, parcel 2 is 22 acres.
Correct.
Right now on parcel 1, how many units are there?
Parcel 1, there's, again, it fluctuates a little bit, but there's approximately, I think, 28 occupied units right now, but there's a few that are vacant as well.
And then on parcel 2?
There's well, that's not true. On parcel 2 right now, we have existing ranch house that is one residential unit, as well as some outbuildings that are there. And those would be removed to allow for the additional, 16, I believe, units on the west side of Low River Road.
So then when we look at the, no, I have that, okay, never mind. No, I do have another question. Looking at it as what's the worst thing that could happen to us if the density that we're about to allow moves and onto empty space, how big could this get? How many units?
So I'll rephrase that question to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So, yeah, are you asking what could ultimately a larger development look like on this if, say, parcel 3 or parcel 4
Yes.
would be? I'll say the largest number that I know of that was discussed as the planning went through its phases was 120 units, I believe. And Kara, is that your recollection as well? And that was early on, and it was very quickly dismissed as not something that anyone was looking for.
Yeah, and I think it was 160.
Yeah, we've heard 150 and upwards of that.
I think it was 160. That's-
Sorry, Kara.
No, you're good.
That doesn't work.
Oh, sorry, wrong meeting. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So let me clarify a couple. So, the initial numbers that were talked about, I don't remember if it was 120 or it was in the 100s. That was still within the same area. And so I think what you're asking, Suzanne, is what is the future potential at the other parcels that hasn't even been discussed or anything. What has been looked at is what's the infrastructure that's being proposed is for the 36 units of the mobile home park and the new 40. So any numbers about the future, those haven't been part of any discussions.
We keep finding ourselves in that position recently, like with the airport. You know, this is described, but then there's this blue box over here. We know what it will be for, but we don't know what will really occur in there. What I know, or what I think from history, is that if the major part of it is approved as it has been planned, proposed, that when we get to this part, it's really hard then to say no. And yet, here we are again with something where we can see what's gonna happen here and see what's gonna happen here, but then there's this and there's this, and if we approve what is before us today, we put ourselves in the spot as soon as the other two come in, because now we have created a different character of the neighborhood. And so this can comply with this new, more dense. But, just because you're the county manager, can you do anything about that?
I was waiting for some comment there. What I do know is what's been planned is that the infrastructure that is before you today, the horizontal infrastructure, is only for those 76 units. As far as any expansion, I don't know what any expansion of that would look like. So I acknowledge that is a history that has come before the P&Z on private parcels as well, and that definitely is something that comes before P&Z and other times. What I do know is that there hasn't been, what is that numbers or how is it gonna be used? It was just, when the board went through what the subdivision was, is here's other parcels that may or may not be used in the future. This is what they are right now.
And if those are used in the future, they are gonna require more infrastructure.
I believe so, that the current infrastructure would have to be expanded. The current infrastructure as proposed in front of you today would have to be expanded.
Correct.
Okay.
So the infrastructure is not acting as a growth generator, like for future development, because some of this infrastructure, the way that it's being scaled, it does seem like it's scaled for future development that's not on this application.
Go ahead, you know it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you look at both the water treatment and the wastewater treatment facilities, they are created so they're kind of packages, right? So if you put, right now there's 3 of these BioClear units in there, and there's 2 settling tanks in for the wastewater treatment facility. So that was based on these kind of like, we'll call them almost off-the-shelf type of products, that was the amount of infrastructure for that was needed to support the existing and the proposed development. It was, so if there's any additional, like, capacity in there, it's just because, that was, you can't buy it in 72 and a half, you can buy it in, 25, 50, 75, or, something like that. So if there is any additional capacity, it's not intended to be that as a growth generator. It is intended for the size of this particular proposal.
And we spent so much time, and as you know, we're still on the comprehensive plan, but I must say, we missed you. You went on to bigger and better. clouds
You'll
or
never get rid
whatever.
of me, don't worry.
So I have a couple other questions. Can I ask?
Yeah.
What did the county pay for this property?
$6.5 million.
And how much do you think has been spent today on the hydrologists, the engineers, the geologists, the design studies, the blah, 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 blah?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. It'd be a little speculative to throw it out there.
Probably at least as much was paid for the land, or what do you think?
No, I would say not that much. More than $1 million, but less than 6. But I really truly don't know.
And so is there a rezoning application in the works to rezone this from, you said initially that was zoned AR10, which is 1 unit per 10 lots, right? So that would be 7 lots, right?
Yeah, rezoning is not a component of this process, since it's a county-owned project. We're looking
Oh,
for
I see.
conformance with the plan.
So that ties into the fact that chapter 12 does not apply to this, which includes standards such as adequacy of water supply, impacts on streams, aquifers, senior water rights, traffic impacts, safety, emergency access, geologic, visual, scenic, compatibility, avalanche, floodplain, wildfire, geologic, engineering, and design standards, among others. Right, so all of that, the county doesn't have to comply with, right?
I think the chapter 12 regulations are areas and activities of state interest. Some of
Right.
those standards that you're talking about are in chapter 7 of the land use code and other standards of the code. But your general statement is correct. The zoning requirements that would be applicable to a privately owned parcel are not wholly applicable to this parcel because it is a publicly owned entity.
Right.
Very owned by a public entity, so.
Okay, well, that's the no kings rule, right? Or maybe it's the flip side of the no kings rule.
That's the location and extensive view ruling.
Okay.
So,
And I'll just say that the team has essentially gone through the same actions that a private developer would do in order to study the debris flow hazard, the mitigation strategy, complying with no development in the floodplain. So even though they're not required, it's just the right thing to do.
I have one more question. I actually have a question for Rye.
Okay.
When we have 2 county plans, like the Woody Creek Master Plan and the Down Valley Plan, that directly conflict, do we have any guidance on how to determine which one governs or takes precedent? Especially when we have one plan that's newer and more recent and like specifically references this project.
Sure. The county's position, or what's in the staff memo right now, is that a finding of nonconformance with one or both of those plans would result in the inability for this project to move forward based on a planning and zoning commission decision. So the only way this project can move forward with a land use approval today is if the planning and zoning commission found that the project was in compliance with both.
Yep.
In this case, the Woody Creek Master Plan and the Down Valley Plan.
So there's not like a hierarchy with.
There's not an
plan system.
existing hierarchy between the 2 plans that are in front of you today. But moving forward from here, were the board to find that one or both of those plans the project was not in conformance with one or both of those plans, the project could not move forward to building permit.
Right.
And it would have to be referred to the Board of County Commissioners for further consideration.
So maybe that last sentence explains this, and I don't fully get it.
Sure.
If we say deny it, then that message is taken to the Board of County Commissioners. But then they could do what they're probably gonna do with the comprehensive plan that we're looking at and ignore, or what it wasn't the comprehensive plan. so whatever we were doing, airport, they just can overrule us.
The statutory language and what is included in the land use code is that the proponent of the project, if it's a public entity, in this case, the Board of County Commissioners, can overrule the determination of the Planning and Zoning Commission and move the project ahead. Now, whether they overrule that, your findings totally, or if they take into consideration some aspects of whatever aspects of the project you would find non-conformance, I can't predict what they're going to do, but yes, the BOCC has the ability to move forward with the project in the event that you all decide to, as you put it, deny it, but find it not in conformance with the master plan. Denying's more pain.
Yeah, it is, I know what that is. You know, so we have spent, now, not on this, but we have now spent 8 hours on the airport. By the time it's done, we will have spent probably 12 hours on it, knowing all the while that it's not gonna matter. Because in that case, we are seeing the county spending so much money so far out in front of us that, you know, if they stopped it now, they'd skid for the next 5 years, you know, but they couldn't just really stop it, I think. And it's really, it's very frustrating to now come in here the next week, after the last 2 weeks, and find ourselves with a location and extent, which I think sounds really good on paper. I mean, the reason for having a location and extent, but I'm starting to feel like I should ask, who's the old fool now? You know, I sit down here and I do it again, and then I send it over, and they, in this, the same as the airport, have spent the money, hired the people, drawn all the lines. Isn't there something better?
It's an election.
No, that takes a while.
And does that 30-day shot clock,
They can do what they want.
the same 30-day shot clock as the airport start today?
Yes.
Yeah. So, on today, all right. I'm gonna open for public comment.
Wait, can I make a comment? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
please, Joe.
Yeah. I was concerned about this potential hierarchy as well. And what I heard in the discussion was if one of the two plans is against it, then we should vote in opposition. I hope I heard that correctly. But what I came across was the Pitkin County Comprehensive Plan passed by P&Z as resolution PZ 005-2023, which Zach, you signed off on. And on page 8 of that, it talks about the summary of adopted county plans, and it mentions the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan and notes that plans adopted, and this is under the heading of the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan, plans adopted since 1987 for areas previously included within the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan area supersede the DVCP. So does that mean that the Woody Creek Master Plan from 2016, I believe it is, supersedes the DVCP in this instance? Or are we back to if one speaks against it, then we have to vote against?
I think maybe you were talking about the 2000, well, I'm not sure what you meant, what you were referring to with the 2023 plan, but I do think that the 2003 comprehensive plan does note that certain aspects of the various caucus master plans, sorry, I don't have it right in front of me, so I'm going off of memory, that various aspects of certain caucus master plans, including the Woody Creek master plan, supersede some aspects of the Down Valley master plan. To the extent that this property is directly addressed by the Down Valley master plan, I don't know if it necessarily wholly supersedes it, but to the extent that the county or staff's position at least is that if you found it not in conformance with the Woody Creek master plan, that would warrant a finding of nonconformance by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the inability for this project to move forward to building permit on that basis.
Obviously, subject again to the Board of County Commissioners
Sure,
deciding
so-
whether they're gonna,
Correct,
follow any recommendations.
Sure.
That's just what we want.
yeah.
All right, let me ask, I'm sorry, Joe, nothing, still going?
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Let me ask Ryan a question. What's your view of the home rule charter and, and the master plans? And, what weight does a master plan have, under the home rule charter, in this type of a situation?
In this particular situation, I think the home rule charter mandates that the county follow the dictates of the Pickens County Land Use Code and apply the criteria that's set forth therein. In this case, the Pickens County Land Use Code requires the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider those master plans with respect to a finding of conformance or not, with respect to the application that's in front of you right now.
Right.
I'm not,
Of course, master plans are kind of soft, they're not code, right? So obviously
Master
the
plan.
code controls over the master plan, right?
generally speaking, yes, the master plans may have different weight or different, you describe them in soft. In some areas of the land use code, compliance with the master plan is a more generalized concept, I would say.
Right.
Whereas for something like the location and extent review process, where the criteria specifically refers to compliance with the plan, I think it may have more
Or
weight to it.
conformance with the plan.
Sure, and then for something like a rezoning application or something like that, where again, the master plan may have a more substantial weight to it than
Mhm.
some other aspects where you may, for example, with an activity envelope and site plan criteria, there's sort of a general concept that it must comply with the comp plan. But
And back to the rezoning, is that, who makes the decision? Is P&Z a recommending body on the rezoning?
if there was a rezoning, all rezoning applications, the Planning and Zoning Commission is a recommendatory body on those applications.
Well, as I understand, at least from Nicole's presentation, that it's currently zoned AR10.
It is currently zoned AR10.
So that's gonna have to come back through P&Z and Board of County Commissioners?
Not for this project, because this project's proceeding under location and extent review.
But how do you do the rezoning? My question, I guess, was, when there's a rezoning, what, the location and extent supersedes over the rezoning process?
I don't know if supersedes the right words, but
Yeah.
Location and extent
Obviates the need to go
obviates the
through,
need
to go through
rezoning.
a
Correct,
rezoning?
correct.
So we won't see a rezoning
There will be
application.
no zoning application in connection with this project.
And how is the zoning changed then?
The zoning has not changed, the project moves ahead,
It's still AR10?
it's still AR10, yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the body of case law is pretty well developed on this subject. I mean, the most, I think the seminal case on that involves building a fire district or a fire station where the zoning wouldn't allow the fire station to be placed.
Yeah, we've been through that already.
Yeah, we've been through that a bunch of times. And that is the status of the law in Colorado, is you can proceed absent a rezoning for a project such as this, where the proponent is a public body that is a subset of the state.
So if I'm the owner of one of these properties, if I'm, lucky enough to be in the lottery or something like that, I mean, how does that impact, say I wanna get financing, and, I mean, is it non-conforming? Because it doesn't conform to the underlying zoning, or?
I don't know how that would apply in the context of like a underwriting review of a loan or something like that. But presumably they'd rely on whatever governmental approvals are in place, both from a land use perspective and a building permit perspective, I would think, but, you know,
All right, well, academic, but
I suppose, unless you can get a loan at some point.
It's not academic.
well, anyway.
Joe, as regards master plans, I think there's this, it shouldn't be so fuzzy, but I think there is a place in considering a master plan where we have to do, each of us has to do what is right by the caucus. And I know caucuses can come in with these big dreams and, you know, we don't want to change one single inch. But once the county goes through with a caucus, I mean, the staff goes through with a caucus months of meeting with them and helping to guide how that master plan is put in place. And then it goes before the county commissioners and it's adopted there, then we should give it some weight, I think. And
Thinking about running for county commissioner again?
no.
Change the land use code?
When I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission in the 80s and 90s, and that planning commission decided to become quite proactive. And we even divided ourselves into a part of the commission looked at the ongoing applications that came in, but there was another part that said, we'll look at ongoing applications and continue to do what we should do, but we will also go out and interview landowners asking, what would you like to do in the future? Nothing binding about it at all, but what are your dreams? And this included Whip Jones and the Stapletons, and I mean, sat down at a lot of kitchen tables, and so that occurred also in Woody Creek. So then I, as a planning commissioner, went back to Woody Creek, which turned into, I mean, they've never been lackadaisical about protecting what they have, what they're stewards of.
What they had.
But
Go ahead.
yes, but I was standing there essentially promising, I mean, I've said that in Snowmass Creek, I've seen in Old Snowmass, and said it in Woody Creek, other places, you know, don't tell me that you don't have the time to help write your own master plan. You need to do it, and of course the county is going to consider it. So I give master plans a big weight. I mean, if the county didn't want what they said in a master plan, they should have said it when it came through. And I still
Maybe I
think
was
that's
wrong, I
the way.
thought you were a county commissioner.
No.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Passed up the big bucks.
Yes, I did.
Anyway, sorry, we're getting sidetracked.
I'm gonna open this up to public comment.
If you don't
Yeah.
mind, real quick, we do have 3 people online.
Yep.
If you're planning to speak, work on raising your hand.
Yeah.
And we'll do public comment in the room first and then get to you online.
If there's anyone in the room who'd like to make public comment, please come up front and state your name. And we're gonna try to, come on up, Kathy.
Thank you.
Cap it to like 3 minutes here, so.
Okay. I'm ready. I'm Kathy Wallagus. I live at 1870 Lower River Road, and I've been a resident in the Roaring Fork Valley for 53 years, living in Aspen for the majority of the time, but the last 7 years living on Lower River Road. My story is that I have been an employee of this valley for 53 years in the medical field. My late husband and I raised 4 children here. And we actually bought the very first employee housing project in 1975, which I might add was flawed and failed. But Picken County has been determined to be the largest developer of housing in the valley. I am here tonight to oppose the Phillip Trailer Court project as presented, and it is non-compliant with the Woody Creek Caucus. Most concerning to me is the rural location, the density of the project. It initially had started off with 41 units and now up to 70 some, and we're crossing our fingers it won't be going up to 150. I believe you want families to reside there. I have to point out, Phillips is not in the Aspen School District. It will require parents to drive their children to the Basalt School. All amenities, grocery shopping, medical, recreation, school activities, they all require a car trip. My measure is that it's going to probably add about 200 more cars to Highway 82. I don't know what your presentation showed, but anyway, I just wondered, how does this measure into your priority goals of employee housing? The collateral damage of these housing developments is adding to the commuter congestion, and that has now become the #1 problem we're facing. Secondly, and I'll be real quick, the site is located only a quarter mile from mule deer and elk severe winter range. There must be assurances to preserve the critical habitat and ensure migration paths are not disrupted. Will there be a dedicated wildlife easement next to this project? The guidelines in this packet, priority preservation lands, reads that, quote, "The highest priority area for preservation should be the wildlife area," unquote. So thank you for your consideration, and I hope you will cooperate with the Woody Creek Caucus Master Plan. Thank you.
It's tough to get up after you've been sitting there for a while. For the record, my name is Toni Kronberg, and I'd like to thank P&Z and the staff for working on this application. And Rod can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the job of the planning and zoning is to make sure the extent and location review is in compliance with the master plans that govern the extent and location. In this case, the Woody Creek Caucus and the Down Valley Comprehensive Plan. If it goes to the Board of County Commissioners and they decide to proceed with it and go against the recommendation of the staff, the Woody Creek Master Plan, and the Planning and Zoning, it's my understanding that a Rule 106 can be filed in court to challenge the Board of County Commissioners moving forward on it because they did not follow what the extent and location guidelines are for approving an application. So I just wanted to put that out. That's not part of this discussion, so to speak, but there is an option that if the Board of County Commissioners decide they can do whatever they want to do and they don't follow what the planning and zoning is tasked with, which is an extent and location review process based solely on compliance with the master plan. So with that being said, I wasn't prepared to say that, but I said it. So I really quickly, what I like to say is, I agree with the staff's recommendation to deny the application because it does not comply with 2 master plans. The job of P&Z in an extent and location review is to determine if the application conforms to the master plans. Staff has made the determination already. The application is not in compliance. So in this case, I think it would be easy for planning and zoning to make the decision to deny the application in conformance with the staff's recommendation. One of the caveats is that when you decide to deny the application, that you have to be very specific in your reasons as to why you denied it so that the Board of County Commissioners can address that. The zoning, This is an AR-10 agricultural residential area. It is not zoned for affordable housing. And while zoning may not be part of this application, the question is, again, why is Chapter 7 and Chapter 12 not included as part of this application? This project is outside of the urban growth boundary for both the city of Aspen and Pickens County. The staff memo states, and the purchase contract between Phillips and the county states that this property was purchased to preserve and maintain affordable housing, not to expand it. Let's see. Traffic counts. One of the things that the traffic study did not show was that the transportation, RAFTA, that they have 2 off seasons, they don't service Phillips Mobile Home Park, that they only have 6 hours of operation, once an hour, and those hours are 7, 8, 9, 5, 6, and 7. So this does not satisfy transportation requirements. As has already been stated, school buses from Aspen or Basalt do not go to Phillips Mobile Home Park, which requires parents to drive. I would encourage the planning and zoning, if it deems appropriate, to do a site visit. This is a rural road. In the county engineer's assessment of this road, he based his decision on the fact that this road could handle 1,800 cars. It's my understanding the 1,800 number is based on an urban road surface, like standards. This is a rural road, Wildlife, 28 acres are gonna be taken away from all the wildlife that's down there for affordable housing. Those 28 acres, I live a couple miles down the road in Snowmass Canyon across the river. Last night we had 2 bears, we think it was a wolf, there's mountain lions, there's all kinds of wildlife, eagles and whatnot. You're taking away their home. In my opinion, this particular project should probably go with the Aspen School District in Woody Creek at the intersection of Woody Creek Road and Lower River Road. I think there's a better site than this. When you go down and take a look at that site and you take a look at the mud flows, sounds like the work that's being done, we could have some California mudslides into the park. And then with so many unknowns that are with this project, that if this project is approved today, they can go straight into building permits. We do not know what's happening with RAFTA, with the rail corridor. We do not know what's happening with the debris fields. We have 2 undeveloped parcels that we have no idea what the county has planned for those. And there's no subsequent reviews or applications for this. But all of what I just said, your task tonight is, with an extent and location review, does it comply with the Woody Creek Master Plan and or the Down Valley Development Plan? And if it doesn't, you don't have a choice in the matter. You have to deny the recommendation, and that recommendation is what the staff put in the resolution.
Thank you,
But
Tony.
thank you so much, I appreciate
Tony.
that.
Anyone else, public comment?
I have notes and what I thought I was gonna say, so be patient with me, please. I'll try and make it under 3 minutes. Amber Krakowski, longtime resident and resident of Phillips Mobile Home Park for 17 years. Just a couple notes on the presentation. Thank you so much. One thing that has kind of been a thorn in my side is that beautiful picture of the visual depiction of what it's going to look like. A thing to take notice is that picture is also when everything is green and the foliage is full. That is not how it is year-round in the valley. And if you look at that area during, I would say, more than 7 months out of the year, none of that green is there. So there is actual visual impact that's not being proven with the pictures that they're presenting. One thing that came up during this meeting is, right now we're on septic where the water does go through the land and it naturally goes into the river. Putting a large water treatment plant where we're dumping water into the river. Right now, that strip, I'm not a fisherman, but that strip is known as gold medal waters. So what is going to happen when we take a natural organic area and then are forcefully putting water into that environment? What is that going to do to the river itself? One little caveat is the project it does, not caveat, but the project, they're like, oh, we're gonna put all this asphalt there. Come to my house anytime you want in the summertime. It's extremely hot. If you're gonna be putting black asphalt everywhere, it's only gonna increase the temperature. Back to what Tony said, do a site visit. Everybody's welcome to come to my house. We can have tea, bring your hiking boots. I hike that land all the time. I can show you what the land is really like back there. In regards to the traffic study, we're only talking, I feel, about cars. One thing that I think is a definite need is the amount of people that are using the Rio Grande Trail. The Rio Grande Trail crosses over Lower River Road in 3 locations. Anybody that lives in Lower River Road knows how dangerous it already is. The pedestrians that come by on their bikes, on their e-bikes, although there are stop signs, they do not stop. The residents know we have to be mindful of these crossings because people will not stop. When we're adding all the construction traffic, all the new residents, I fear that there's going to be a major accident. There was a hit and run a couple years ago, and so we have to keep in mind the safety of the people that are using the Rio Grande Trail. Something that I brought up when the county came to Phillips Mobile Home Park last week was last year. In mid-June, there was a presentation in front of the Board of County Commissioners, and it was in regards to finances and the projection of finances and what the long-term cost would be. Joe, you brought up, okay, $6 million has been spent. It was shocking to hear like it's been over $1 million. We don't know the numbers that have been put into Phillips. The water treatment plant, I think it's 15 million. But then what is the upkeep on that? And I know, Ashley, I think you said that, the numbers were maybe redacted or it was only a guesstimate, but the fact was that these numbers were put in front of the Board of County Commissioners. At that point, John Peacock actually did say, we need to maybe develop these numbers to see what the actual costs are. When I asked about those costs, nothing has been done. But at the time of last year, that projected cost is $300,000 a year of ongoing costs, which would be passed down to who knows what. With the numbers of housing that they're talking about, that's $1,000 a month per resident of cost for that water treatment plant. And that brings up, the land that, the open parcels that are not developed or no plans to be developed. Well, there's an easy way to get that number down if they want to provide affordable housing. And that's it's not planned yet, but then absolutely future develop the plan. Neil, again, I've lived at Phillips for 17 years. 10 years ago, I lived in a falling apart mobile home and I had a decision to make. And it was, do I want to buy into APCHA housing or do I want a trailer? And I hands down chose buying a new trailer because living in town where there's lots of people, that's just not my lifestyle. I wanted to live in a rural area. I want the freedom to be able to do what I want. The county had said that we would be grandfathered in with the rules that we were living under, and that has not been the case. The county now, we have new leases signed that now we have to be RO. And it was interesting, Suzanne, when you brought up like the definites that are in place. The definites are, here's the new plan. But everything else is very convoluted, including the stability of all the residents that currently live there. Since Pickens County has bought it, I constantly think to myself, they could pull the plug and evict us at any time because they're Pickens County. And that's not a nice place to live. I bought a new home, it's a trailer. Maybe some people think oh God, you can't live in a trailer. That's nothing to be proud of. I worked my ass off to get that trailer. And to have that threat to know that it could be taken away any time because, again, the definites are new housing, new water treatment plant, not, hey, the people that live here, we are definitely going to take care of you in writing, not just words and verbiage. I know I've gone beyond my 3 minutes. I think that's pretty much all that I have to say. Yeah, I can skip the rest. Most of it was talked about in the papers that have been turned in, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the room? Please.
I just have something quick to say. It's just something I noticed. I'm Allie McGuire. I live at the Riverside. I just wanted to say that there was a posting outside of the Riverside where it said that this meeting was at 12 p.m. today. And then there was a mailing posting that just said that this meeting was at 5 p.m. So I just wanted to suggest that we get on the same page so everybody can come, just so all my neighbors can come. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Alan Jones. I'm the co-moderator of the Woody Creek Caucus. And I think a lot of things have been covered already. One thing I did want to say is, as far as the traffic goes, I think y'all should understand that, maybe you already know, Low River Road has no shoulders. So if a car has a flat, breaks down, this winter a snowplow went off to the side of the road, blocks the road for a long time until a wrecker can get there. It could be 3-4 hours, whatever. It can be a really big problem. So I don't think that traffic flow study really takes that into account. And so the other thing I wanted to say is, this has always been in the master plan as no further density. The county has been liaising with the caucus for a long time, since they bought the place, about what will happen there. I've got the minutes from 3 meetings in 2019 with county officials at the meetings saying that it would be no more than 60 units. So that was a 50% increase in density. And, we didn't know what to think. We thought that might be acceptable once we saw the final plan or whatever. I got an email from Mr. Peacock to our secretary saying that it would be 57 units. So I think you should consider the sense of grievance that you might have if you're a resident of Lower River Road and you've been participating in the caucus for 8 years and hearing that there's gonna be some more density here, but it's not gonna be large. It's gonna be 50%, which seemed large at the time or whatever, and now you're hearing that it's much larger or whatever. It's a pretty large grievance we have. And I thought I might just read from an editorial by Miss Caskey during a similar dispute from 1991.
Is this where I should refuse to testify because my words might be used against me?
Do you want me to read it?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, it just says, we believe our gift to the larger community, to future generations, and to ourselves should be a housing pattern that results in true health to the people using that housing, and that results in the maintenance or enhancement of the natural elements that are so much a part of Woody Creek's rural character. And I think, I'd like you to please consider that, and thank you very much.
Tom Melberg, resident for 51 years in the valley, resident in Woody Creek since 1979. I'd like to point out that it was very convenient for the staff to come up with a down valley plan to take over our Woody Creek caucus. I thought that was pretty presumptuous, and I'm sorry to hear that you took that avenue, but it was the only avenue to take in order to put this inappropriate development in our backyard. I think it should be pointed out that be very clear that the present tenants or the owners of the mobile trailer parks in Phillips are not going to be the residents of this project when it's done. And that's a real crime because it started out to save them, and this project is going to eliminate them because of the fiscal money that it'll take to go into the project. And that's a real crime in my book. I think might have been a little disingenuous, Kevin, on the presentation of because of what the capability of the waste disposal plant. Patty Clapper in the Dog and Pony Show that we were out with the residents last week admitted that it's being oversized because of future development. If you look at the map above the last sort of highest development of the property, there's a area that's just up valley and just next to it that is designed, that is labeled activity envelope. It's presently sage. Nothing was put on it in your presentation, and I found that to be a little disingenuous because of the remark by Patty Clapper that you build now because it's going to cost more and when the other development comes on. So the plan is the plan. It's there. Let's be open about it. This is just sprawl. And when you go up and down the valley, that's what we have, sprawl. And Pickens County has been really good about protecting this sprawl. They've limited the growth to the largest extent to the urban growth boundary. And once you get past or go by the Conoco station, it's pretty much the same as it's been for 50 years. And that's something worth protecting. And so to throw this out for affordable housing when there's more appropriate places to build it, where people really want to live, where the infrastructure is in place, it should be a knock-knock on all of this, all of you as the P&Z members and the county commissioners to say, this is an inappropriate place to have it. The wildlife concerns have been addressed. It wasn't in one of your referral parties there. I didn't see the Colorado Department of Wildlife chime in on this. I thought that was kind of interesting. RAFTA has not historically been servicing the Phillips Trailer Park until the county bought it, and now they want to have a route that would sort of say, hey, we have a route. But the reality is that the Metro District, which is a densely populated area by the tavern, the W/J, another densely affordable housing area, seven riders of RAFTA per week is what it was drawing from. It's an inconvenient location because you're close enough to just drive into town versus taking a RAFTA shuttle to all the various places up and down and waiting, and then going to the park and ride at the Brush Creek Intercept lot and getting on another transportation vehicle to go into either Snowmass, Aspen, or Down Valley. It's not being utilized. 7 riders per week. I don't know if that's 1 or 2 people that are using it, but it's an area that's not being utilized, and for obvious reasons, because it's not convenient for them. The last thing I'd like to say is that I would rather have the staff, the BOCC, really take the money that has been generated from the property tax that we passed to work together with the towns, the Aspen and Snowmass Village, who the voters have voted and created the demand for the employees. Over 2 million square feet of commercial or residential second homes up in Snowmass Village were built, or in the last phases being built as we speak. And little or no affordable housing was attributed to that 2 million square feet of development. Do they have the place to build it? They absolutely do. The rodeo grounds would be an absolutely beautiful place where the infrastructure's in place, the people would like to live there, and you build over a parking lot and you create the housing right there. You have transportation, you have the views, you have the parks, you have the trails. And Snowmass wants to be just big enough, but the voters voted for what they got, and they should be responsible for their votes. And the same with Aspen. And the red brick, the yellow brick, could there be another level of housing on top of that? Absolutely. Could the ice garden be replaced and replaced out by the Arc, which would be much more convenient place and economically run for having 2 rinks right next to each other? And the ice garden would be a beautiful place to have affordable housing in town. You would look at the Francis Whitaker Park. It seems to be just a very limited use for maybe it's the homeless people that sit out or a few horseshoes being thrown. But both of those townships, cities, have voted for the increased need for affordable housing. And although they have built some, they are directly responsible for building it where the people want to live and where the infrastructure is. So, in summary, this is a bad project in a wrong location. It's going to be a place where the current residents will not be able to come back or will be able to stay. And it will just be a sprawl for our community with the infrastructure costs absurd. And the impacts on the road. The idea of the roads, the road management, people that are saying that they're going to have cameras, and if you want to drive in the bus lanes, you'll pay a fee, and they'll have cameras going into the Smith Hill Way, and to stop people from trying to avoid that, getting into town where we have 35 to 4,000 cars a day coming in and out. They'll be going down to Gerbosdale. And once they get that backed up, then they'll go down to the Conoco Bridge, and they'll be coming up through Lower River Road. So your traffic counts, you're not seeing into the future of where the bubble bursts. So it's the wrong place. You're not protecting the people that was intended to, and it certainly goes against our Woody Creek Master Plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Anyone else? Bonnie, do we have anyone online?
No one online has raised their hand, so.
I'm Marty Schlumberger.
I didn't recognize you, I'm sorry.
I think what we're here today is really to put the focus on, does this project conform with the Woody Creek Master Plan, the Down Valley Master Plan? So I'd like to preface this by saying that in the late 60s or in there when they first built the employee housing on Smuggler Mountain, I was at that meeting. And a man got up and said, can you build your way out of an employee housing deficiency? And the answer was from the developer, no, you can't build your way out. Well, here we are 35, 40 years later. Have we built our way out of it? We've created a monster. So what happens, and I tried to explain this many times down the road, that to end an employee problem, you stop what needs the employee. You don't go backwards. Now, if you wanted to get Hunt to develop his property quicker, develop your employee housing quicker so he has the people to feed his machine. He's just waiting for us to pay for it. But let's go back to today. We don't want to get off track. I think the commission ought to consider that it is against the Woody Creek Master Plan, which I helped write for many years. It's against the Down Valley Plan. We need to keep the people that work and live in Aspen in the Aspen area. Now, we know the commissioners just gave $2 million to buy a trailer court in Glenwood today. What are they doing? They're creating a greater problem for us in the transportation corridor. So I think this commission, and I hope it takes into consideration to deny this application. And I understand Susan's position and Joe's position that the commissioners want it, because on the resume, employee housing looks really good. And there's no other reason, if they get into the real nuts and bolts of it, it hadn't worked. And what they're doing is going right down that same road as fast as they can. So I really hope this commission denies this application today. Thank you.
That's it? All right. I'm gonna close public comment and then open it up for any further commissioner questions.
You did that to me last time. You do it.
Well, I don't think I have any questions, other than why? I mean, I think that just across the board, everything having to do with this proposed project is not in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan and Caucus Plan. You know, staff, I think, found it in conformance barely with the Down Valley Master Plan, or Down Valley Comprehensive Plan, which is, you know, in need of being updated, because I think that thing goes back about 20 years or more. But you know, I mean, whatever, I mean, you can just run down it. It's, you know, AR10 zoning, you know, ordinarily you'd have 7 lots out there. And instead we got 78 units. You know, that's like 10x of what the density would be based on the underlying zoning. We have, you know, these parcels that have been subdivided out, and we don't even know what's happening on 2 of the parcels. We know what we think is happening on 26 acres, you know, out of the 75 or so, and part of that is, you know, open space, but we have no idea what's happening on the other parcels at this point. And you know, it's just gonna continue. I think it's, you know, inappropriate that the county is not subject to Chapter 12 of the Land Use Code. I mean, we could just go on and on. I mean, whatever, just you know, we've had a lot of comments, and you know, the building a batch plant and a water treatment plant. I mean, we're going through the 2050 vision plan, right? And then one of the key factors there in terms of having, you know, additional housing outside of the urban growth boundary is there a batch plant? Is there a water treatment plant? So that's just laying the groundwork for more. I'm, you know, kind of stunned by the amount of grading that's gonna be required for these debris flow areas and fields. You know, and this is just on the first 2 parcels. You know, half square mile? Are you kidding me? Anyway, I think it's, you know, let me just, you know, whatever, so some of this stuff is in the record. You know, there's gonna be, you know, some of these slopes are 2 to 1. There's gonna be tiebacks, which means, you know, you're gonna, whatever, put, you know, big soil nails and structures in the ground, you know, to keep the hillside from sliding down into the lower river road. You know, the cost, the the problem is that the county is just pounding ahead and is spending millions of dollars. And then again, here we find ourselves with our little local, location and extent review. So I don't think the location works and the extent is, off the charts. I'd have to question what the cost per square foot to build this housing is gonna be. And I would agree that most of the people who have, lived in mobile homes there are not gonna be able to afford it. There's nothing wrong with living in a mobile home. I grew up in a mobile home. The wildlife, there's a ton of wildlife in that area. I didn't hear anything in terms of how the wildlife is being addressed, and I think so, it was an interesting comment that, CPW hasn't even weighed in on this thing. The Lower River Road, Trent Jones made some comments, there's no shoulder on those roads. Something happens and cars in the ditch. So adding, whatever the numbers were, 250, trips a day, I think that's probably undersized for it. I didn't really, look at the number of bedrooms that are being added here. But I think there's gonna be a lot of traffic generated by this. There were parts of the application that they were talking about, well, maybe we're gonna have to, the Roaring Fork Transit Authority wants to keep the width necessary to put in the, light rail at some point in the future. I just can't imagine. And it's okay, we're gonna have to move the road and rejigger this or that. I don't think any of those impacts have really been addressed. Clearly not in compliance with the Woody Creek Master Plan. But we're kind of stuck in this situation where we can make a determination that's not in compliance with the Woody Creek Master Plan. And, the county commissioners have spent millions of dollars proceeding with this before it has even come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it was somewhat of a facetious comment when I said elections, but, how else do you change the direction of what's going on if the Board of County Commissioners are the ones that are gonna make the decision? And I don't know, maybe some of them will be held accountable in the future elections. The problem is that, who really wants, it's a tough job. And you don't make a lot of money and spend a ton of your time and you're being criticized and you're never gonna satisfy everybody. So, I think it takes a special breed of person who even wants to run for the county commissioner seat, but that would be great if people would come forward, but, I don't know, and then, whatever, we've got, we used to have an urban growth boundary. I don't know what's happened to that, at least in connection with this application. I don't know what else can I go on with, it just, I don't know, somewhat facetiously, I'd say that I'm not gonna vote no on this application, I'm gonna vote hell no.
I didn't know that was a category.
Sorry for all that, anyway.
I agree with everything Joe has just said. And I'm going to vote no. There, sure. There are some lines from the, and because it doesn't, I don't think that it meets the requirements of the Woody Creek Master Plan. There are some statements in their plan that I would like, in addition to what Joe has already said, that I would like to have quoted in what goes to the Board of County Commissioners. And I'll read one of them. Growth centers should be synonymous with the urban centers. With the urban centers and kept away from the rural areas which cannot provide services to support it. One of the policies of the Aspen-Pitkin County Growth Management Policy Plan was to divert urban levels of growth away from those areas which are incapable of handling it. And then there's another line that I would like to see included. Proximity, and this is from the Woody Creek Master Plan, proximity to support services and the utilization of public mass transportation is a key ingredient for determining the suitability of an area for more development. There's one other that I would like included. Mapping of urban growth boundaries has been accomplished in order to stop the sprawl of development into the rural areas of the county. Urban growth boundaries promote compact and contiguous development patterns that can be efficiently served by public services and at the same time preserve open space. The benefits of successful urban containment techniques can include more cost-effective provision of public services, encouragement of infill and redevelopment of existing urban areas, reductions of sprawl and protection of agricultural land and open space resources. The growth boundary is made effective by not expanding urban services beyond them as the development tends to follow the expansion of services. And those are directly from the master plan. I don't think that there's anything else that I would add.
Can you, would you be so kind as maybe to send that to Nicole?
Yes, of course. I will, and I
No, she
can,
was
before I leave today, I
writing
can show you
frantically
which.
there.
Oh, okay, that would be hard. Okay.
Joe Mason, comments?
Thanks. Usually we kind of have a policy in this group where we don't piggyback on what one another says, but I will say in this instance, I agree with everything that others have said already. It's not a lot to add to it. This is just the wrong location, the wrong extent. It just doesn't make sense being away from major road corridors and regular transportation, as well as one person noted the conflicts between trail users and the increased traffic that will arise. I cycle that stretch almost daily during the summer, and I know it well. So I'm inclined to vote no, and then given greater certainty with the fact that the just being completely against the Woody Creek Master Plan gives me justification in doing so. Furthers my support of a no vote. So thank you.
Okay,
if
thanks.
I have that right.
Yep.
If I have that correct.
Can I add one additional comment I was gonna make? I forgot. So, you know, we've had the discussion on the airport and the nanoparticles, et cetera. This area is fairly close to the flight path under the airport. So I think that is another reason that this is not a great location, given, you know, what presumably is gonna happen with the expansion of the airport and the increased traffic. I just wanted to add that to the list.
Okay. Yeah, my comments it's pretty simple. We've been at this location and extent thing for a bit here, so we're getting pretty versed with its nuances. But it's not in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan. And it's that simple. That's what a location and extent review asks us, there's all these other factors are not what we're deciding. All the big issues are for another board. We're here to decide whether or not it's in conformance with the Woody Creek Master Plan, and there's the difference between modernization and expansion. And if we were just talking about modernization to get a better, higher quality water treatment system to this trailer park, or to modernize the drainage so that it's safer for mudslides or anything like that, that's one thing. And what we've gone into is we've sort of had this creep into expansion, but that is pretty simple. So I would, I will play devil's advocate for a minute though. If, just to think about what is the highest and best use for this property. And, Joe, like you said earlier, if this were just a regular AR-10, we'd have 7 lots here, right? So Woody Creek Caucus needs to decide, well, all the caucuses need to decide, when we're talking about car trips, or you're talking about anything, if the highest and best use of this is to have 7 lots, where you have 7 10,000 square foot homes that no one lives in at all, if you're talking about impact and construction impact and wildlife impact, think about what the construction would be like to have 7, 10,000 square foot homes with each one of them has a 3-4 year construction window where you have 15, 20 dump trucks, 30 guys showing up at the construction site every single day. Not only to say is when we've already gone through this for years, a single family home like that has 12 different staff people that go in and out of a single family home every single day. You have housekeepers, you have a property manager, you have caretakers, landscaping, snow removal, HVAC, the pool guy. If you added up just 7 single family homes, if that was technically the highest and best use of this property, you'd have as many car trips as you would, I would argue, with housing all this employee housing units. So there is a balance, and if that is, it's just something to look at, because what we have here right now is, I thought we were kind of approaching it, but we have a full system failure. So what we have is, we have our new master plan that everybody spent a long time working on, that says we need affordable housing and we need employee housing in this community, because everyone likes to go to a restaurant and have there actually be people working there. And when your house is flooding and you need a plumber at 6 in the morning, you want some guy to show up in 15 minutes. You don't want some guy to show up in 3 days. Or when you go somewhere, you just like there to be staff, people working in restaurants to actually bring you your food, right? And so we have a situation where we have these rural plans that dictate no future growth. And then we have caucuses saying, we're out on employee housing. We're just opting out of employee housing altogether. We've taken the load, and maybe they have. Woody Creek has a lot, you think of that employee housing at Chaparral, W/J, the trailer park, and there's 5 or 6.
Pick and iron,
and then Waterview, right? And then where do the teachers are the school district. So not to say Woody Creek has not taken more of their load than anywhere else. But there's a thing we have to talk about, or somebody's gonna have to figure it out. If you have one caucus that just says, we're done, we're out on employee housing, what happens when Owl Creek says the same thing, and Maroon Creek says the same thing, and every other caucus just says, we're done on employee housing, and everybody just says, we should be doing this in urban areas, we should be doing this inside the urban growth boundary, and then we have information out there that says that area is mostly saturated. for opportunities for employee housing. So then whether we need it or not, we're just getting zero employee housing is what we're getting. And so that's where we're kind of at. So we need to basically, we just have a full system failure here because we have, and this isn't with this application. I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate here and pontificating a little because I've been doing this location and extent thing for a while, but this might not be the best place to put a very large, high-density employee housing development. And most of it, I think, is geological. Like, I think there's a lot of, if you look at that drainage and you look at how steep it is above there, there's a lot of a possibility for large runoff. But there's 8 other houses in Snowmass Canyon, every canyon in Snowmass Canyon. Albany, Cerise, there's under every single one of those drainages in Snowmass Canyon, there's a 10,000 square foot house under a drainage, right under a huge, mudfall, like mudslide area on the side of the canyon that's completely exposed, and so it's not just here, there's other spots in that canyon. You just look at a map and look at where the houses are that have like serious mudfall, like mudslide, rockslide risk, right? And so, it's a tough one, and it's something where we need to. I'm concerned about the trend of if every caucus decides to just say we're done with it, then where are we at, like as a community? That's my devil's advocate.
Well, what I would say, to contradict what you're saying, that's valid, but, back to, 7 houses, that's 7 houses on 75 acres,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about a third of that.
Right.
Here, right? So
Yeah.
if it was a third of it, it'd be 2 or 3 houses.
Yep.
And then you look at, what else is, Woody Creek doesn't necessarily, Aspen Village, maybe not technically in Woody Creek, but Aspen Village
Sure.
is, whatever, you got some fair density there. We've got the freaking landfill, right?
Yeah.
Woody Creek's got the landfill. So it's just kind of a, like a overall dumping ground, whatever, for the big city. And so here's the big city, and who gets the advantage of the employees? Well, they're paying, a waiter, what, $14, $18 an hour. And if they were paying a wage that really reflected what it costs to live in the valley, employees would have a lot more money and be able to afford, some of the stuff.
Yeah.
So what I see is, Woody Creek basically subsidizing, Aspen and Snowmass Village. And, and so they're able to, whatever, have all kinds of commercial, whatever, profits and so on, because they're, it's kind of back to what's a living wage for the Roaring Fork Valley.
Yeah.
And I think that the living wage is, probably 2 or 3 times higher than what it did, than what people are actually making. But yeah, I don't have an answer to it. You're right that, but there's also, a lot of areas that really don't, don't carry much of the burden of affordable housing. Like, east of Aspen. You think of, what do we have east of Aspen?
Stillwater.
That's about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then maybe the Beaumont, right?
Beaumont
Beaumont's
is
gonna
right
be,
there.
60
Yeah.
units, Aspen Valley Hospital. So, I don't know, there's no answer to it because it's just continual growth and growth and growth. And I don't know, it's the paradox, the more attractive you make it, the more people will wanna come, more people would come.
The
less
bigger,
attractive it
the
becomes.
faster ski lifts you make, the more people can go skiing, and then the bigger line there is, right? And it's like, the airport, same conversation we had there, it's like, do we need more people? Do we need more? Or are we just creating a thing that, getting more people into a bigger airport that we're just feeding something that we don't have the infrastructure to support, you know?
And all I guess we can do here with our location and extent is,
And then it could get, and in 30 days, it's on the shot clock anyways, right?
Yeah.
So.
well, I think back to the kind of the process here, because our only shot at getting the Board of County Commissioners to take into account some of our concerns is gonna be through our resolution, right, of
Yep.
denial. And so, you know, I would be in favor of, I mean, it's already whatever.
Oh, don't say it. Don't
I'm
just.
gonna say it. I think we ought to continue this so that we get a decent resolution that lays out everything that we've talked about, all these key points. It won't take that long, you know, to continue this over and or whatever, next meeting, or you've got, you know, another free meeting or maybe, because the racetrack with its, what that's gonna be like 400, 500,000 square feet project, you know, that's opening up, and have a decent resolution that goes back to the Board of County Commissioners and adequately expresses what our concerns are, unless Nicole feels like, oh, hey, I've got enough information here with all the concerns that you guys have put together to, whatever, produce a resolution, and then she can draft it up and send it to you, Zach, and then you can sign it.
Yep, you can do that. I mean, she can draft it and send it to all of us and we can, and then we can add what we want and make sure, because what we need to do with this denial is, you're right, it's very important that we articulate to BOCC the exact parameters of why this is not, does not pass this location.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna do
It's
an
not
adequate
just like
job with it
a
tonight.
denial is not what we need to express why, so.
Well,
I guess then,
if you have taken notes about what the four have said, could you come up with a resolution and then can it be sent to us so that we can at least look at it at home and put it on a, do we have to, it's closed the public hearing.
So we've done a couple different things, in these circumstances before, I suppose. Maybe 3 different things that I can think of. One is if the Planning and Zoning Commission was so inclined, you could make a motion, tonight with a decision on the application and confirm with community development staff that the reasons you've articulated tonight for denying the application are adequately communicated to the planner in charge here, which is Nicole, of course. And then she can render that into a resolution that Zach can review upon signing to make sure it adequately addresses what you all have raised. So we've done it that way in the past. Other ways that we've done it, and I think if the planning commission's going to be modifying the application after Nicole redrafts it based on whatever direction you get tonight, is to bring that resolution back at a subsequent meeting. As much as I'd like to get you all done tonight, to the extent you're gonna be making changes to that, I think the process dictates, and this is a public hearing, that the changes are reviewed not only by you, but by the public as well. And that wouldn't have to be a lengthy meeting. Presumably, you could either do that in conjunction with another item that you have on the agenda that night. So you bring it back, the comments are highlighted by community development staff and displayed for the public and you all to see, and you can make a motion on that particular resolution that's in front of you.
Does that require a notice, another notice?
No.
no, we can continue the
Yeah,
public
you can
hearing.
continue the public hearing tonight. Let's say you continued it to May 5, because I believe there isn't currently anything on the agenda now. So, okay, so there's a GMQS on that agenda right now, but presumably what you're talking about wouldn't necessitate even an hour, I wouldn't think. I would imagine you could accomplish that in under half an hour, but I've been wrong about the decimal time.
Yeah, throw bet on it.
Presumably, Nicole could draft the resolution, circulate it to make sure it all looks good to you based on whatever direction you give here, if it is a motion to continue, as I think Joe's suggesting. And then take an action on the application on that day. So that's certainly something you could do. Nicole can take her best shot at capturing what you all said, circulate it, and then she can keep track of the changes for everybody to see at whatever date you choose to continue it to.
Was there a third option?
I thought I maybe had a third option, but, I guess the third option would be is if you're not prepared to, sort of engage in that, you could do an, at the meeting draft as you go, and things like that, which I anticipate you're not having the time or the inclination to do tonight, so, I think those are the paths forward, but in the interest of time, maybe that second option is sort of the best use of your time, but also gives you the chance to do the wordsmithing that you potentially want.
That'd be my take.
Yeah, that would be mine too. I was gonna ask if that would suit you. Okay.
So I'd entertain a motion to continue this meeting to May 5th, where we will approve a final version of our language for the OCC.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we continue this until May 5th. We'll continue the public hearing. We'll request staff to draft up a revised resolution, adding the various concerns as Rye was just laying out. And then we can review it at that time and make any edits or changes and have a final vote at that point, all of which will happen within the required statutory 30-day period of time.
Yeah.
So that'd be my motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Joe, seconded by Suzanne, and then I'll take a vote on Joe's motion. Joe Mason?
I vote in favor.
Okay. And Suzanne?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So we continue. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Anything else? We're good?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Move. Done.
Too early,
No, we're not. We're just
Thank you,
compared to
everyone.
the other one,
Thank you,
we
Joe.
gotta go home at like 9.
Well, let me bring up one other comment, this is kind of off the record, because I've had a couple people, say, I thought this was a good idea to move it to 4:30. And I've had a couple, we want to maybe think about that, because I've had a couple people say like, hey, I work until 5.